Hi, welcome to the Mending Place resource page. We're so excited to have you here. One of the things that we wanted to do with this resource page was just create a one-stop shop for some of the things that we found in our time in ministry are the most important things, the things that sometimes we don't get enough information on Sunday morning or Wednesday. And we wanted to make it available to you at any point in time. When you want to look through it, you can find it and you can get all the information. Today, specifically, we're going to be talking about marriage. I have my wife here with me. And what's important about marriage? Well, from the very beginning of time, God has made this the most important relationship on the planet. And so today we're going to be talking about some of the things that are destructive in marriage, but also some of the things that are the benefits of marriage. Why do we get married? Why is it worth fighting for? And so we're excited about you being here with us today. So to start off, I was looking at some information online from a man by the name of John Gottman, and he started talking about the 4 core issues of marriage. And if you haven't looked at any of his stuff, it's worth you taking your time to go look at it. We're going to provide after this video at the page below, we're going to have you look at all the other resources that we think are important for you to look at. And maybe if you take your time to go through some of the messages, some of the books, some of the other links, it'd be worth your time and your marriage if you were to be serious about taking that extra step. So the 4 things that John Gottman thinks are very important to marriage. Number 1 is criticism. These things are destructive to marriage. Criticism's number 1. Number 2, contempt. Number 3, defensiveness. And then number 4, stonewalling. Of course, you can imagine that we're not going to be able to get through all 4 of these in our time together. So today we're just going to focus on one, and that's contempt. My wife and I have been married for 21 years. And back when we first got married, there was very little information, at least that we were aware of, about what it takes to be in a healthy marriage. What are some of the highlights of marriage, but what are some of the things we have to do to prepare ourselves for marriage? And so we got thrown into marriage just a couple days before I turned 20 and about a month before she turned 20. So we were 19 when we first said I do. We ended up running into a lot of things that we hadn't had a history of, we didn't have time for, we didn't think about, we hadn't ever even seen. Really, in my family, we hadn't seen healthy marriage. I don't know if that same is true. We'd seen people married, but not healthy marriage. And so it was important for us to really do some soul searching and find the resources and tools that were necessary for us to do the routine maintenance to keep a healthy marriage. So back to what John Gottman said. The number 1 thing that he says is destructive to marriage is contempt. And I'm just going to give you a working definition that we'll be working with during our time together. And that simply means that we think this when we think of contempt: I'm better than you and I don't respect you. Now that's pretty tough because a lot of times in marriage we think that, we love each other, there's not going to be any problems, there's not going to be any issues. But whenever we get to the place where we're lopsided, where we think that one person is superior or better than the other, we open ourselves up for a world of trouble. And with that, a lot of things that the enemy would love to do is to keep us in that imbalanced place. And we know that life has seasons where there's highs and lows and ups and downs. But for the most part, we have to continue to maintain a healthy viewpoint of our spouse and of ourselves as it relates to our marriage. So I'm going to start off by just asking Heather a couple of questions about this idea of contempt, about what does it look like, and we want to get some feedback. I think it's good that you're here. So glad you came and decided to join me this morning. But this is what I would like to ask. In our relationship, just use me and you. Have you noticed seasons where we may have been unbalanced and where contempt could have crept in? And if so, if you'd like to kind of explore, what were some of the underlying causes of that?
Sure. I think mainly we're both ambitious people. I think that we are very goal-driven, and I think that there were times that our visions and the seasons weren't aligned appropriately. And I think when that happens, contempt can surely start to creep in. You feel like what's important to me is not important to them, and you start to defend your position. And that can certainly open a door for contempt.
When you said defending your position, is that a bad thing? Or is it, there's some people out there right now I know that are watching, and it feels like that everything is a fight. Like there's everything that they're going through is a reason for me to dig my heels in and fight right here, right now. Is that true to contempt, or is that just true to marriage? Or
I would say There are certainly times that you have to make a stand for what you believe in. I don't think that always agreement just for the sake of agreement is always the right solution. However, I think that there should always be a pursuit of a win-win, that no one should come out of a season or an argument or a disagreement feeling like there was a winner and a loser. I think that if you are fighting for your marriage, then it's the health of the marriage that has to take center stage. And as long as you are both committed to fighting for the health of the marriage, I think that that's certainly the most important thing.
So fighting, but fighting for the right reasons.
Yes.
Fighting for the right reasons. Hey, listen, we fought before, haven't we?
A couple of times.
Yeah, just a few times.
There was that one time.
That one time, remember? Yeah. So I will say this, that in the years that we've been together and just considering and thinking about what are some of our greatest challenges and seasons, because marriage has seasons. I want to make sure that's clear, because you won't always feel the same way you felt like day one of marriage all the way throughout. But it doesn't mean that the marriage is flawed or that it's something wrong with you, or if you were the right wife, the right husband, then your love and emotion would just continue to grow and climax. But that's not true. Life is not that way in general. There's good seasons, bad seasons, indifferent seasons that seem like, but at the end of the day, we trust God's principles as it relates to marriage and the value of marriage, even when our feelings aren't necessarily aligned with it. One of the things I think that's important, though, is we talk about the idea of contempt. Do you think that we come in first and foremost in the relationship with that unbalanced feeling? Like before we even say I do you think that people come in feeling like they may be the jewel or the prize of the relationship? Does that ever happen, or do you think that could happen? Has it happened for us, or have we seen that true in our time of ministry?
Well, my opinion would be that that is dependent upon the person and their past experiences. I think more than anything, self-preserving is something that as humans we all struggle with. And I think that there are times when our pain will cause us to elevate our own desires and our own wants above what might be good for the health of the whole. So I certainly think that we all come into a marriage as humans struggling with the desire to preserve themselves. This is the closest relationship you'll ever have. And so it can certainly cause a level of pain that you've not experienced until you've been in marriage. And that desire to preserve yourself, the desire to protect yourself, can at times create some really poor behavior.